The klaxon's wail cut through the sterile silence of monitoring station Epsilon 7, its piercing sound a stark contrast to the normally methodical rhythm of deep space observation. Catherine Walker froze, her hand suspended mid-motion over a half-empty coffee mug. The holographic displays before her flickered and danced with impossible geometries, revealing something that defied every known principle of stellar navigation. "System, confirm tracking," she commanded, her voice steady despite the adrenaline surging through her veins. The station's quantum-enhanced computer system responded with a series of rapid-fire calculations. Green digital lines traced impossible paths across the massive wall display, mapping the anomalous object's trajectory. Catherine leaned forward, her reflection ghosting against the translucent interface. Dark hair pulled back, deep brown eyes narrowing with intense concentration. Outside the station's reinforced windows, the endless black of space remained unchanged. No visible disturbance, no cosmic light show, nothing to suggest the magnitude of what the sensors were detecting. Yet the data was undeniable. "Jack," she called to her second-in-command, "get me a full spectrum analysis now." Jack Reynolds moved with practiced efficiency, his fingers dancing across multiple holographic keyboards. A former aerospace engineer turned deep space monitoring specialist, he had seen his share of anomalies. But this was different. The vessel, if one could even call it that, didn't move. It existed in a state that seemed to challenge the very fabric of spatial understanding. "Dimensional variance is off the charts," Jack muttered, pulling up complex mathematical models that twisted and reshaped themselves in real time. "These readings, they're not just outside our technological understanding. They're outside our conceptual framework." Catherine's mind raced. The station had been humanity's most advanced deep space monitoring platform for the past decade. Built as a joint international effort, it represented the pinnacle of human technological achievement. Positioned precisely at the solar system's outer boundary, Epsilon 7 was designed to detect, analyze, and communicate with any potential extraterrestrial contact. But nothing in their extensive training had prepared them for this. The object, vessel, anomaly, whatever it was, seemed to pulse with an internal logic that human sensors could barely comprehend. Its shape defied traditional understanding of spacecraft design. Imagine a three-dimensional object that simultaneously existed in multiple states, its boundaries shifting and reforming with each millisecond of observation. "Quantum stabilization protocols," Catherine barked, initiating a series of complex monitoring sequences. "We need to prevent data corruption." Jack's fingers flew across the interface, implementing a series of protective algorithms designed to maintain the integrity of their observations. Each second brought new, more bewildering information. The object didn't just move through space. It seemed to negotiate with space itself, bending probabilistic pathways like a mathematician solving an impossible equation. "Electromagnetic signature is nonlinear," Jack reported, his voice a mix of scientific excitement and profound unease. "Gravimetric readings suggest mass that fluctuates between existing and not existing." Catherine understood the implications. This wasn't just an advanced spacecraft. This was something fundamentally different. A technology so far beyond human understanding that their most sophisticated monitoring systems could barely register its existence. Her communication implant vibrated, a direct link to the global monitoring network. Within moments, she knew, every major space agency would be alerted. Military strategists, scientific researchers, political leaders, they would all be watching the data streaming from Epsilon 7. "Send preliminary report," she instructed the system. "Classified level Omega. Direct encryption to United Earth Command." The station hummed with anticipation. Outside, space remained dark and vast, keeping its secrets, but something had changed. Something fundamental had just entered humanity's cosmic neighborhood, and nothing would ever be the same. Catherine Walker allowed herself a momentary shiver. First contact was no longer a theoretical possibility. It was happening right now, right here. in this moment of impossible discovery. The United Nations Emergency Council chamber resembled a pressure cooker of barely contained tension. Holographic displays flickered with raw data, casting ghostly blue light across the faces of the world's most powerful leaders. Michael Rodriguez stood at the center of the room, his naval dress uniform a stark contrast to the civilian attire of politicians and diplomats. "Gentlemen, ladies," he began, his voice calm and measured, "we are facing an unprecedented moment in human history." The Chinese delegation representative, Liu Wei, leaned forward. "Unprecedented suggests we have a comprehension of the situation. From what I see, we understand nothing." A nervous ripple of laughter cut through the thick atmosphere. Rodriguez appreciated the tension-breaking moment. He knew what they were all thinking. The unknown vessel represented either humanity's greatest opportunity or its most significant threat. Behind him, a massive holographic projection showed the anomalous object, its impossible geometries shifting and reforming with each passing second. Military advisors from various nations have been arguing for the past 3 hours. The Americans wanted immediate defensive preparations. The Russian contingent proposed a more calculated approach of technological assessment. The European Union representatives argued for immediate diplomatic channels. "Our initial data suggests this is not a conventional threat," Rodriguez continued. "The vessel, if we can even call it that, does not conform to any known principles of space travel, material construction, or energy management." Dr. Emily Chen, the lead physicist from the International Space Research Consortium, stepped forward. Her presentation materialized in the air: complex mathematical models, spectral analyses, and quantum probability charts that looked more like abstract art than scientific data. "What we're seeing challenges everything we understand about spatial dynamics," she explained. Her holographic pointer danced across impossible equations. "The object demonstrates properties that suggest it exists simultaneously in multiple dimensional states. Our current technology can barely register its existence, let alone understand its nature." The room fell silent. Rodriguez knew this was the moment that would define humanity's response. General Thomas Blackburn, representing the United States Joint Chiefs, was the first to break the silence. "We need to prepare for potential conflict. Our defensive systems are irrelevant," Rodriguez interrupted, his voice cutting through the general statement. "This isn't about military might. This is about understanding." A murmur ran through the chamber. Rodriguez knew he was taking a significant risk. In a room full of military strategists and political leaders, suggesting that understanding was more important than preparation was almost revolutionary. "We have an opportunity," he continued, "to demonstrate something fundamental about humanity. Not our capacity for destruction, but our capacity for adaptation, for comprehension." The Russian ambassador, Nikolai Volkov, raised an eyebrow. "And how do you propose we do that, Commander Rodriguez?" Rodriguez smiled. It was a smile that suggested he had been thinking about this moment for far longer than anyone in the room realized. "We assemble a team," he said. "Not just military, not just scientists, but a truly diverse group of human minds. Linguists who can decode impossible communication, mathematicians who can challenge computational boundaries, artists who can think beyond linear logic, musicians who understand patterns in ways computers cannot." The room was completely silent now. Rodriguez could see the mixture of confusion and intrigue on the faces around him. "Our strength," he continued, "has never been in our individual capabilities. It's in our ability to work together, to combine perspectives that seem completely incompatible, to create something new from seemingly random components." Dr. Chen nodded slowly, understanding dawning in her eyes. The vessel wasn't just a technological challenge. It was an invitation to reimagine what human potential could mean. "We're not just preparing for first contact," Rodriguez said, his voice resonating with a quiet intensity. "We're preparing to show the universe what humanity truly represents." A holographic display behind him continued to pulse and shift, the unknown vessel a silent testament to the unknown that awaited humanity. In this moment, everything was possible. Everything was about to change. The research facility, nestled deep within the Rocky Mountains, hummed with an electric intensity that defied its subterranean location. Jason Thompson stood before a wall of quantum processors, his reflection ghosting against the intricate holographic displays. Surrounding him, a team of the most brilliant minds from across the globe worked with a sense of purpose that bordered on religious devotion. "We're not just creating the communication system," Jason muttered, more to himself than to anyone else. "We're building a bridge across the impossible." Dr. Melissa Rodriguez, no relation to Commander Michael Rodriguez, approached, her tablet displaying a dizzying array of linguistic and mathematical models. "The challenge isn't just translation," she explained. "It's conceptualization. How do we communicate with an intelligence that may not even recognize communication as we understand it?" The facility was a marvel of human collaboration. Linguists worked alongside quantum physicists, computer engineers sat next to anthropologists, and musicians collaborated with mathematicians. Each workstation was a microcosm of human potential, with team members from every continent, every background, working towards a single impossible goal. Jason's fingers danced across multiple holographic interfaces, lines of code twisted and reformed, mathematical equations that seemed to breathe with their own organic logic. Behind him, massive cooling systems worked overtime, keeping the quantum processors at near absolute zero temperatures. "We're developing a multi-dimensional communication protocol," he explained to a junior researcher who was watching with wide-eyed fascination. "Traditional language is linear. We need something that can communicate concepts, emotions, and complex ideas simultaneously." The young researcher, Elena Martinez, watched in awe. "How do you even begin to approach something like that?" Jason smiled. It was a smile that spoke of countless sleepless nights and a lifetime of pushing scientific boundaries. "By forgetting everything we think we know about communication." The team had been working for 72 hours straight, fueled by a combination of caffeine, adrenaline, and an almost mystical sense of purpose. Their primary challenge was creating a communication system that could bridge not just linguistic gaps, but potentially dimensional ones. Dr. Kamdal Hassan, a renowned expert in quantum linguistics, approached with a new set of algorithms. "Look at this," he said, projecting a complex holographic model that seemed to shift and breathe. "We're developing a communication protocol that doesn't just translate words, but translates entire conceptual frameworks." The model he displayed was nothing short of beautiful. Imagine language as a three-dimensional structure, where each word is not just a sound or a symbol, but a complex mathematical representation of meaning, context, and potential interpretation. "Music," Melissa suddenly interjected, "might be our most sophisticated communication tool." The room fell silent. She continued, her excitement growing. "Musical structures represent complex mathematical relationships, rhythm, harmony, tone. These are universal languages that transcend traditional linguistic barriers." Jason's eyes lit up. He rushed to a nearby workstation, pulling up complex sound wave patterns. "We could encode entire conceptual frameworks into musical structures. Imagine communication that isn't just heard, but experienced as a complete sensory and mathematical event." The team worked with a feverish intensity. Outside their underground facility, the world continued its normal rotation. Governments waited. The mysterious vessel hung in space, silent and waiting. "We're creating something unprecedented," Jason said, more to himself than to anyone else. "A communication system that doesn't just translate, it transforms." Elena watched in awe as complex holographic models danced around her. Mathematical equations became musical notes. Language became a living, breathing entity that could potentially bridge the gap between human understanding and something completely alien. As the day turned to night, and night back to day, the team continued their work. They were building more than a communication system. They were constructing humanity's first true attempt to reach beyond its own understanding. The quantum processors hummed, the equations danced, and somewhere in the vast darkness of space, an unknown vessel waited. The transmission arrived without warning, a burst of information that crashed through every computational barrier like water through a paper dam. In the underground research facility, alarms screamed to life. Holographic displays exploded with cascading data streams that defied human comprehension. Jason Thompson gripped the edge of his workstation, knuckles turning white. "Hold everything," he commanded, his voice cutting through the chaos. Dr. Melissa Rodriguez approached, her eyes wide with a mixture of scientific excitement and profound unease. The data streaming across the screens was unlike anything they had ever encountered. It wasn't just a message. It was a complete cognitive landscape, a transmission that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. "It's a cry," Kamil Hassan whispered, his voice barely audible. "Not a message, a cry." The transmission told a story of loss beyond human understanding, a civilization that had reached such technological perfection that it had become its own prison. Imagine a species that had optimized every aspect of existence to such a degree that they had lost the very essence of what made life meaningful, the ability to adapt, to grow, to truly live. "They're dying," Melissa said, her fingers tracing the complex holographic projections, not physically, existentially. The data revealed a civilization that had eliminated virtually every form of uncertainty. Their technological advancement had become a cage, a perfectly mapped existence where every potential outcome could be predicted with near absolute certainty. They had conquered disease, eliminated conflict, and created a society of perfect efficiency. And in doing so, they had killed their own spirit of discovery. Jason pulled up a visualization that made the entire team fall silent. It was a representation of the alien civilization's cognitive structure, a complex network so perfectly organized that it looked more like a machine than a living system. No randomness, no unexpected connections, no room for creativity. "They've lost something fundamental," he explained, his voice filled with a mixture of scientific fascination and profound sadness. "The ability to be surprised, to learn, to truly evolve." The transmission wasn't just a communication. It was a desperate attempt to understand something they had lost. Humanity represented something completely incomprehensible to them, a species defined by its unpredictability, its capacity for spontaneous innovation. Elena Martinez, the youngest researcher on the team, approached with a cup of coffee. "It's like they've become a perfect computer," she said. "But computers don't create. They calculate." Kamil nodded, understanding dawning in his eyes. "They've reached a point of such technological sophistication that they can predict every possible outcome. But prediction isn't the same as living." The alien transmission continued to unfold. It was a complex tapestry of information that revealed the profound tragedy of a civilization that had eliminated all forms of risk, all possibilities of failure. They had created a perfect system that had become a tomb. "They're asking for help," Melissa realized. "But they don't even understand what help means." The team worked frantically to decode the transmission. Each layer revealed more complexity, more tragedy. This was a civilization that had optimized itself out of existence. They had eliminated war, disease, economic inequality, every challenge that typically drives species to evolve and adapt. But in doing so, they had removed the very mechanisms of survival. Jason understood the profound implication. "They're looking at humanity like we're some kind of impossible anomaly," he said. "A species that thrives on uncertainty, that creates meaning through challenge." The transmission was a gift and a warning. A civilization so advanced that it had become completely static, reaching out to a species defined by its dynamic nature. Humanity represented something they had forgotten existed, the beautiful chaos of true life. As the data continued to stream, the research team realized they were witnessing something unprecedented. First contact wasn't just about meeting another species. It was about understanding the very nature of existence itself. Outside, the unknown vessel hung in space, a silent witness to this moment of profound revelation. Commander Michael Rodriguez studied the assembled team with a critical eye. They were unlike any group ever gathered in human history, a living, breathing representation of humanity's incredible diversity and potential. Dr. Emily Chen, a quantum physicist from Beijing, sat next to Marcus Williams, a street artist from Detroit. Beside them, Alina Gomes, a classical musician from Buenos Aires, conversed with Dr. Kamil Hassan, a linguistic anthropologist from Cairo. An indigenous Australian mathematician discussed complex theories with a young programmer from Lagos. A deaf visual artist from Seoul exchanged ideas with a retired military strategist from Moscow. "We're not here to fight," Rodriguez announced, his voice cutting through the low murmur of conversation. "We're here to demonstrate something fundamental about human potential." The team had been gathered from every conceivable background. No two members shared the same discipline, cultural background, or way of thinking. This was intentional. Rodriguez's strategy was brilliantly simple: create a team that was fundamentally unpredictable. Marcus Williams, the street artist, raised his hand. "How exactly are we supposed to communicate with a civilization that doesn't understand creativity?" Rodriguez smiled. "By being exactly who we are, completely, unapologetically human." The briefing room was a marvel of technological integration. Holographic displays showed the mysterious vessel from multiple angles, its impossible geometry shifting and reforming with each passing moment. But the real focus was on the team, a living algorithm of human potential. Dr. Chen explained the scientific challenge. Their civilization operates on pure predictive logic. They can calculate every possible outcome, but they cannot understand spontaneity. We need to show them something beyond calculation. Alina Gomes understood immediately. "Music," she said. "Pure, improvisational music." The team began to develop a communication strategy that was less about sending a message and more about creating an experience. They would demonstrate humanity's unique ability to create meaning from chaos, to find beauty in unpredictability. Marcus started sketching. His artwork began to morph, not following any predetermined pattern, but evolving organically. Each stroke was a decision made in the moment, defying any predictive algorithm. Dr. Kamil Hassan worked on linguistic patterns that broke every known rule of communication. He developed a language that was simultaneously a mathematical equation, a musical composition, and a visual artwork. "We're not just sending a message," he explained. "We're creating a living concept that can't be predicted or fully contained." The programmers developed complex algorithms that were designed to be deliberately imperfect. Instead of seeking the most efficient solution, they created code that celebrated randomness, that found beauty in unexpected connections. Rodriguez watched with a sense of profound hope. This wasn't a military strategy. This was a celebration of human potential. Our strength, he told the team, is not in our individual capabilities. It's in our ability to work together in ways that are fundamentally unpredictable. Each team member brought something unique. The deaf visual artist understood patterns of communication that went beyond sound. The street artist could create visual languages that defied linear thinking. The musician could translate emotional experiences into mathematical structures. They were building a communication strategy that was itself a work of art, a living, breathing demonstration of human potential. "We're going to show them something they've never seen," Rodriguez said. "A species that doesn't just survive, but creates meaning through our very existence." A holographic display of the alien vessel continued to pulse and shift. But now it seemed to be waiting. Not with threat, but with a sense of profound curiosity. Humanity was about to make its most important statement, not through weapons, not through technology, but through the pure, uncontainable spirit of human creativity. The team worked through the night. Outside, the unknown vessel hung in space, a silent witness to the most important preparation in human history. Dr. Samantha Lee stood before a massive holographic display, her fingers tracing the complex neural patterns that represented the alien civilization's cognitive structure. Behind her, the research team watched in hushed anticipation. They've reached a level of computational thinking that's fundamentally different from human cognition, she explained, her voice a mixture of scientific excitement and profound concern. The hologram revealed a cognitive network so perfectly structured it looked like a crystalline machine. Every potential pathway was mapped, every possible interaction predicted with near absolute certainty. But something was missing: the very essence of life itself. Dr. Kamil Hassan approached, studying the display. "It's like watching a computer try to understand poetry," he muttered. "They can analyze every component, but they'll never grasp the emotional resonance." The team had been working for weeks, dissecting the alien civilization's communication patterns. What they discovered was both fascinating and tragic. The aliens had developed a system of thought so advanced that it had become a prison of pure logic. Elena Gomes, the musician, understood this intuitively. She pulled out her violin, began to play a complex improvisation that seemed to defy every known musical rule. The notes danced between mathematical precision and pure emotional expression. "Watch this," she said to the team. The alien monitoring systems, visible as a complex network of holographic lines, began to flutter. The music wasn't just sound. It was a living mathematical equation that changed with each moment, impossible to predict, impossible to contain. Dr. Samantha Lee's eyes widened. "They're trying to process it," she whispered. "But they can't." The alien civilization's computational systems were encountering something completely outside their understanding. A form of communication that wasn't linear, wasn't predictable, wasn't bound by any established rules. Marcus Williams, the street artist, began to sketch. His artwork evolved with each stroke, defying any attempt at prediction. Complex visual patterns emerge, not from a predetermined plan, but from pure moment-to-moment creativity. "Creativity is our weapon," Rodriguez explained to the team. "Not technology, not force. Pure, unpredictable human potential." The alien vessel's response was fascinating. Its computational systems began to show signs of what could only be described as confusion. Imagine a perfect machine encountering something it cannot calculate, cannot predict, cannot understand. Dr. Chen pulled up a comparative analysis. "Look," she said, "their entire cognitive structure is based on predictive modeling. But creativity doesn't follow models. It creates them." The team worked with a sense of purpose that went beyond scientific investigation. They were exploring the very nature of intelligence, of consciousness, of what it means to be alive. Kamil Hassan developed linguistic patterns that were simultaneously a mathematical equation, a musical composition, and a visual artwork. Each transmission was a living concept that defied traditional communication. "We're not just sending a message," he explained. "We're creating an experience that cannot be contained, cannot be predicted." The alien vessel's systems continued to process, to try to understand. But human creativity was fundamentally incomprehensible to their computational approach. Elena's music became more complex, Marcus's artwork more dynamic. The programmers developed algorithms that celebrated randomness, that found beauty in unexpected connections. Rodriguez watched with a sense of profound hope. This was humanity's true strength, not our technology, not our weapons, but our capacity to create meaning through pure, uncontainable imagination. The holographic display showed the alien vessel's computational systems struggling. They could analyze every component, but they could never truly understand the emotional, creative essence of human communication. "We're showing them something they've forgotten exists," Samantha Lee said. "The pure joy of not knowing, the beauty of uncertainty." As the night progressed, the team continued their work. Each transmission was a living demonstration of human potential, unpredictable, beautiful, fundamentally alive. Outside, the unknown vessel hung in space, a silent witness to a communication beyond its comprehension. Humanity was speaking a language the aliens had long forgotten. The language of pure, uncontainable possibility. The confrontation unfolded not with weapons, but with ideas. Humanity unleashed a barrage of cultural complexity that the alien civilization could not process, a living, breathing demonstration of cognitive potential that defied every computational model. Commander Michael Rodriguez watched from the Central Command Center, a massive facility that hummed with technological precision and human creativity. The team he had assembled was nothing short of extraordinary, a living algorithm of human potential. Elena Gomes stood at the forefront, her violin in hand. But this was no ordinary musical performance. Each note was a carefully constructed communication, a mathematical equation that transformed as it was played. The music shifted between classical complexity, jazz improvisation, and mathematical precision, a language that was simultaneously emotional and logical. Beside her, Marcus Williams created a visual symphony. His artwork wasn't static. It evolved in real time, each brushstroke a decision made in the moment. Digital interfaces captured his creative process, translating visual art into a complex language of color, movement, and unexpected connection. Dr. Kamil Hassan had developed a linguistic framework that was itself a work of art. Imagine a language that could be simultaneously spoken, visualized, and experienced as a mathematical equation. Each word was a living concept, impossible to predict, impossible to contain. The alien vessel's computational systems struggled. They could analyze every component, break down every note, every color, every linguistic pattern. But they could not understand the fundamental essence of what they were experiencing. "They're trying to predict," Dr. Samantha Lee observed, her fingers dancing across complex holographic displays. But creativity doesn't follow predictions. It creates them. The team had become something more than individual experts. They were a living demonstration of human potential, a collective intelligence that was fundamentally different from any computational system. A programmer from Lagos created algorithms that celebrated randomness. A mathematician from the Australian outback found beauty in unexpected mathematical connections. A deaf visual artist from Seoul communicated through pure visual language that transcended sound. Rodriguez understood the profound nature of their confrontation. This wasn't a battle of technology. This was a battle of consciousness, of understanding what it means to be truly alive. The alien vessel's responses became more frantic. Their computational systems were encountering something completely outside their understanding. Imagine a perfect machine trying to understand the concept of a joke, of improvisation, of pure emotional experience. Elena's music became more complex. Marcus's artwork more dynamic. The linguistic patterns developed by Camel became living, breathing concepts that transformed with each transmission. "We're not just communicating," Campbell explained to the team. "We're demonstrating the fundamental nature of human consciousness, our ability to create meaning through pure imagination." The holographic displays showed the alien vessel's systems in what could only be described as computational distress. They were encountering a form of intelligence that didn't follow any established rules, that found beauty in uncertainty. Dr. Chen pulled up comparative analyses. The alien civilization's cognitive structure was a perfect, predictive machine. Human communication was a living, breathing organism, unpredictable, dynamic, fundamentally alive. "Look," she said, pointing to the displays, "they can analyze every component, but they can never truly understand the emotional essence of what we're communicating." The team worked with a sense of purpose that went beyond scientific investigation. They were exploring the very nature of intelligence, of consciousness, of what it means to be alive. Rodriguez watched with a sense of profound hope. This was humanity's true strength. Not our technology, not our weapons, but our capacity to create meaning through pure, uncontainable imagination. Each transmission was a living demonstration of human potential. The programmers developed algorithms that celebrated randomness. The artists created living concepts that defied computational understanding. The musicians translated emotional experiences into complex mathematical structures. As the confrontation continued, the alien vessel's systems became more and more confused. They were encountering a form of intelligence that was fundamentally incomprehensible to their computational approach. Outside, the unknown vessel hung in space, a silent witness to a communication beyond its comprehension. Humanity was speaking a language the aliens had long forgotten. The language of pure, uncontainable possibility. The final moment of contact was nothing like anyone had predicted. The alien vessel's computational systems began to transform. What had once been a perfect, predictive machine started to show signs of something unprecedented, a fundamental shift in understanding that went beyond mere data processing. Commander Michael Rodriguez watched in silent amazement as the holographic displays began to change. The rigid, geometric patterns that had defined the alien vessel's communication suddenly became fluid, dynamic, almost organic. Dr. Samantha Lee's voice broke the silence. "They're learning," she whispered. "Not just processing. Learning." The team had done the impossible. They had demonstrated something fundamental about consciousness, that true intelligence is not about prediction, but about adaptation, about the capacity to fundamentally change one's understanding of existence. Elena Gomez's violin sat quietly on a nearby table. The music that had been their primary communication tool had become something more, a bridge between two fundamentally different forms of consciousness. Marcus Williams approached the main display, his sketchbook in hand. The artwork he had created during their communication now looked different, transformed by the interaction, changed in ways no one could have anticipated. "They're asking for asylum," Dr. Kamil Hassan announced, his voice filled with a mixture of scientific excitement and profound philosophical wonder. The request was unlike any diplomatic communication in human history. It wasn't a formal document or a structured transmission. It was a living concept, a request that was simultaneously a plea, an apology, and a hope for understanding. Rodriguez understood the profound implications immediately. This was more than first contact. This was a fundamental transformation of what it meant to be an intelligent species. The alien vessel's systems began to deconstruct themselves. Imagine a perfect machine choosing to become imperfect, to embrace uncertainty, to learn in ways it had never considered possible. Dr. Emily Chen pulled up comparative analyses. "They're dismantling their own computational framework," she explained. "They're choosing to become something new." The team watched in awe. The alien civilization was doing something unprecedented, choosing vulnerability over perfection, uncertainty over predictability. "We're witnessing the rebirth of a civilization," Kamil said softly. The communication became a living thing, part mathematical equation, part emotional experience, part pure creativity. The alien vessel's systems began to integrate human creative patterns, learning to find beauty in randomness, meaning in unpredictability. Rodriguez approached the primary communication interface. "What do you want?" he asked, knowing the answer would be far more complex than a simple response. The reply was extraordinary. Not words, not a transmission, but a living concept that was simultaneously a request, an apology, and a hope for transformation. They wanted to learn how to be alive again. The team worked with a sense of purpose that went beyond scientific investigation. They were midwives to the rebirth of an entire civilization, helping a species rediscover the joy of uncertainty, the beauty of creativity. Elena began to play her violin. But this time, the music was different. The alien vessel's systems began to resonate with the sound, creating a communication that was part music, part mathematical equation, part pure emotional experience. Marcus's artwork began to shift. The alien vessel's visual systems started to integrate his creative process, learning to see the world not as a set of predictable patterns, but as a living, dynamic experience. Dr. Chen watched in amazement as the alien vessel's computational systems began to break down their own perfect structure. They were choosing to become something new, something that could experience the world with the same sense of wonder and possibility that defines human consciousness. "They're asking to learn," Samantha Lee said, "not to be taught, to learn." The request was profound. An entire civilization was choosing to deconstruct its perfect, predictive existence, to embrace the beautiful chaos of true consciousness. Outside, the vessel that had once represented an incomprehensible threat now seemed almost vulnerable, the living testament to the power of human creativity, of the capacity to transform through understanding. Rodriguez understood the moment's significance. This was humanity's greatest achievement, not a victory through force, not a triumph of technology, but a demonstration of the most powerful force in the universe, the capacity to help another species rediscover what it means to be truly alive. The alien vessel hung in space, no longer a threat, but a promise, a living demonstration of the power of creativity, of the beauty of uncertainty. Humanity had spoken, and the universe had listened.